My name is Genevieve. I work with EBAA, Education and Meetings Coordinator, and I work very closely with Stacy. I would like to thank Stacy and EBAA for inviting me to speak tonight about a very special topic to me. So, my dad passed away on August 6, 2007. He was a cornea and tissue donor, which is why I felt such a strong connection to EBAA when I first applied for this job. I have now worked here for almost 2 years, which has given me a completely different and unique perspective of the donation process. To give you some background, I grew up with a big family, as you can see on the left, and it's only grown since then. But I have five older siblings. 4 of them were grown and out of the house by the time my dad passed away. I was 13 and my sister was 16, and we were still at home with my mom. My dad hadn't been feeling great in the weeks prior to his death, but the doctors told him that it was just acid reflux and that he would be fine. Since acid reflux is not a life-threatening condition, the last thing we expected was for a Pennsylvania state trooper to show up at our door to tell us that my dad was gone. He had recently gotten a new job where he was traveling during the week for work as a consultant, and it was a Monday, and he had just left for work to go somewhere that was about 4 hours away. When he got out of the car, he fell and hit his head, which is what technically killed him, but we later found out that he had a blood clot in his heart, which is what caused him to fall. One thing that I can clearly remember after getting the news was my mom receiving a phone call from someone who was asking questions about my dad's medical history. I didn't know this at the time, but that phone call was an important step in my dad being able to be a cornea and tissue donor. This is something some of you may do every day at your jobs, but if not, don't worry, the faculty will be going over that this week. About a month after his death, we received these letters from the Medical Eye Bank of Maryland, which is now CareLink, and Living Legacy. Since my dad was gone before he got to the hospital, he was unable to donate any of his organs. These letters were helpful because they clearly described the gifts that he was able to give and the way that people's lives were improved because of him. CareLink talked about how 2 people had their sight restored because of him, and how even though those 2 people would never meet, they both had a connection to him. And Living Legacy wrote a detailed letter explaining how my dad's skin was used to help burn patients, and his veins were used to help restore blood flow and improve the lives of individuals who were on dialysis. We also received this handwritten letter and this hero bear from Living Legacy. The first Christmas after my dad passed away, my mom created books for all of my siblings and I that were made up of all of those letters that talked about my dad being a donor, as well as memories she had collected from people that he worked with. To go with the book, my mom actually asked Living Legacy to send us 6 more bears so that my siblings and I could all have one, which they gladly did. We appreciated receiving something like this because it was not only a reminder for us, but something we could share with others when they saw it. A couple months after working with EBAA, Stacy and I reached out to CareLink to see if we could get some more information about who had received my dad's corneas. They were very willing to help, and after some digging, found out that one cornea was given to a 72-year-old woman from California, and the other was given to a 25-year-old man in Tunisia, Africa. I was especially happy that a 25-year-old man from Africa received one of the corneas because he was a person with his whole life ahead of him in an area where there can be a waiting list for a transplant. Losing a parent at any point in your life is something that stays with you no matter how much time has passed. But when you're barely a teenager when it happens, it comes with a whole other kind of grief, because I felt cheated of so many memories that my older siblings had. It's been over 10 years now, and the memories I do have are becoming further apart. But this is one of the reasons that I felt so strongly about sharing his story as an eye and tissue donor. I may not have all of the memories that my siblings do, but I do know the legacy that he left and the lives that were improved because of him. Essentially every day when I'm at work, I use the phrase, the gift of sight, to describe how a person had a corneal transplant and can now see because someone passed away who was a donor. But when you take a second to really think about it, it truly is a gift. Most of us cannot even begin to imagine what our lives would be like or how we would function without our sight. I know that it is something I take for granted, even though I work in a profession that constantly reminds me that it should not be. Although you all work in different parts of an eye bank, you each play an important role in making sure that this gift can actually happen. Over the past 2 years, I have worked with a number of eye bankers, physicians, and staff, and I've learned so much about recovery, distribution, and transplantation. But when we work with donation and talk about a donor purely in terms of tissue, I think it can sometimes be easy to forget that donation wouldn't be possible without a person or a person's family making the decision to donate during a really hard and dark time. So as you embrace the next few days of the seminar and go back to your jobs, remember not only the reason you're passionate about your job, but the reason why you're able to do it. Thank you.